So here we are for our next processing step of these beautiful caramelized onions, simply golden brown and wilted, as you can see, ready for the next step with the procedure of composing this wonderful, rich, yummy comfort food soup. So, next thing I do is add seasoning. So freshly ground pepper. And if you don't have a pepper grinder, you can always use your regular table pepper. Don't put peppercorns though. No peppercorns. So, freshly ground pepper. And if you're a real measurer, like you want accuracy, kind of like, I usually put into a stock pot yay big, I'd say about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half. Then I proceed to add nicely shriveled up leaves of fresh thyme. This is fresh. If you have the opportunity to buy fresh thyme and desprig it, that means take it off the stems and have sprigs like this of thyme. You don't necessarily have to chop it up, or you can use the good old bottled thyme from McCormick, or your leading store brand Badia. But anyway, I freely sprinkle the thyme in. Now be careful how much thyme you do use, because it's quite pungent and strong with flavor. So I'd say like a small, with 4 fingers, a little hand, mini that much to your hand touch, and just freely sprinkle it. And then combine it with the pepper and your onions and stir it well, mix it well. The next step, we're going to raise the stove slightly, not on super high. Make that mixture nice and well blended. And I do add a little white wine, any kind of white wine you have, preferably light white wine like Sauvignon Blanc or Pinot Grigio. Chardonnay is a little bit on the very strong taste, pungent side. So I freely pour this, but if you, again, you want accuracy in measurement, you normally do 3/4 of a cup, just to give the onions a little pick-me-up flavor. So you again lightly saute that. See your liquid here with your onions, and it's nice, a nice mixture. And you let that slightly condense and evaporate. You will smell the nice vapors of the wine and the seasoning. Then you know you have a good combo. Again, fans, here we go with step number 3 during our French soup procedure here. I prefer, and the recipe doesn't necessarily call for this step, but it gives it a little bit of a bold to the rich flavor of onions with the broth combined. I use Lee & Perrin's Worcestershire sauce. It really picks up kind of the blandness of the onions, even though they're sweet and they have a nice toasty flavor. But I put about 6 drops in there, so it gives it a nice consistency flavor-wise to the broth. I also add about 1/4 of a cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese to pick up the flavor with the onions, and you combine that in there. You stir that very nicely together and let the cheese and the Worcestershire sauce blend in with the whole mixture. As you can see, there's still some of the condensation of the wine, but the liquid remaining. And then the cheese is blending in with the Worcestershire sauce. And the onions are at a perfect consistency. So now, let that slightly cook to a little bubble. On your stove, okay? To a little bubble. And remain it flat so everything is nice and leveled. And the next thing we're going to add is the liquid. This is low sodium. You can also use homemade beef broth. I prefer to use low sodium. That means very low content of sodium, salt added, along with beef consommé, which you can get in your grocery store, beef consommé from Campbell's. I mix them both together so that they blend, and I also stir it to mix it together. And we're going to add about a half of a pitcher full. So that is a pint of beef broth, low sodium, with 2 small handy cans of consommé. And we add that in slowly, stirring into the mixture on your stovetop, in the soup, in the liquid and the onions that you do have. Slowly stir it, because that cheese needs to be well mixed. Okay, now you do want to dilute, because consommé is very rich. You do want to dilute 2 cans of fresh water, whether you have bottled water or you have filtered water. And there is your liquid right there, combined with your seasonings, your onions. Of course, the butter is first, the onions, the seasonings, which I used was thyme and fresh ground pepper, the Parmesan cheese, your broth, and of course I added the wine to condense with the onions. So now you want to stir it to blend everything, nice incorporation. And guess what? We are going to let it sit on the stove for about 8 to 10 minutes on a nice heat. I'm going to top off the cover so that we don't lose any liquid, because it does evaporate. And then our next step is to arrange, whether you have soup terrines, this is specified for French onion soup. If you don't, you can use a typical soup bowl to put your soup in. Now, watch my assembly. This is a very, very important step to make this soup work out so it comes out deliciously wonderful and nice looking too. First of all, I turn on my oven, or if you have a toaster oven, you can use either or, to broil. I turned it on. So I'm going to let the soup intermingle with all the ingredients combined, and I'm going to assemble whether it's sourdough bread, lightly toasted. Make sure it's not hard, crunchy, or overdone. Lightly toasted to the touch of your finger. This is a cushion to lift up the soup. You're going to put the soup in, divert it in there in the bowl, because the bowl is a little on the deep side, and you're going to cushion the soup with the bread An English muffin is perfectly fine. A piece of baguette bread, which they use in France originally. So you're going to insert it in the bowl, and then you're going to top it off with, I use Gruyere cheese. You can slice it or you can grate it. Cut. Hey, audience, we're back with a nice big smile. Guess what? Of course, it could have sat around and stewed a little bit longer, but doesn't that look, wow, lots of onions and delicious broth. So now we're into our last and final step of assembly. I have my soup tureens out and my sliced Gruyere cheese, my application of bread, which is necessary to bobble the cheese on the top so that you can make it nice au gratin, which is French bubbly melted cheese when you stick it in the yum yum oven under the broiler. So here we assemble. I'm going to put a nice amount of onions in there for each serving. And there is one bowl. I'm doing 2 place settings tonight. All right, so you want to level the bowl with enough liquid to float, as I said, like a bobbler, the bread, and of course place it inside with the soup, and the next piece, insert it in there. And the reason that being is that the bread supports the cheese. The bread supports the cheese when you cover the cheese slightly on top of the soup bowl. When you're using just regular standard kitchen soup bowls, as I showed you previously, you can fill the soup up in the bowl and then bobble the bread piece on top and also do the same. But make sure you use oven-proof bowls because you won't have any soup if it's going to crinkle right under the broiler, whether it's a toaster oven that broils or your regular oven stove. So, here we go. We place our cheese. See how it holds the cheese up the bread? So you do that. Until you have it evenly met. And then we're going to place it under the broiler. And that's going to take approximately under the broiler 3 to 4 minutes. But watch it because you don't want to burn the top. It'll be unpleasantly edible. Bonjour, bonsoir. En français means hello and good evening. So, this is our finished product, guys. They are nice little crock pots of the melted cheese on the top with the soup inside. And all you have to do is dig in by taking a spoon and enjoy. See that nice, rich, creamy broth with the bread mingled with the cheese. Ooh la la. Ooh la la, with love and TLC from Jane's Kitchen. Bonjour, bonsoir. En français means hello and good evening. So, this is our finished product, guys. They are nice little crock pots of the melted cheese on the top with the soup inside. And all you have to do is dig in by taking a spoon and enjoy. See that nice, rich, creamy broth with the bread mingled with the cheese. Ooh la la. Ooh la la, with love and TLC from Jane's Kitchen.